Like to call the meeting to order. This is a joint meeting of the Town Council's Financial Oversight Committee and also a special meeting of the Town Council. So I will call the Financial Oversight Committee meeting to order, and I'll defer to Connor to.
Thank you, Jim. Call the special town council meeting to order since we have more than three councilors in attendance.
Our first order of business is to review the fine minutes that Kathy Hill took of our 4/2/25 meeting. And are there any comments, changes, suggestions to be noted? If there are none, I would entertain a motion to approve the 4/2/25 meeting minutes.
So moved.
Second? There's a second?
Rich.
All right. Any other discussion?
Just-
Hearing. Yep.
Point of
Good, Kathy.
information or
Yeah.
question, who's taking them today? Don? Are you no?
Very good question. Are you volunteering, Dawn?
I'm not, no.
I can.
I can't do this one because I'm traveling Thursday through Tuesday, but I can do the next week. So I'll volunteer for next week.
Okay.
I'll do the week after.
Oh, wow. Okay. We're lining up.
Who's doing it?
Nice.
I will.
Okay, Don. I thought it's vice chair, you gotta pass.
Okay. Thank you, Dawn.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kathy.
You're welcome.
I think we need the vote. All in favor, please say aye.
I,
Any opposed? Minutes are approved.
I'm doing it.
Another just housekeeping item. In terms of our last meeting before we provide our recommendations to the town council, we didn't settle on a meeting in May. And I did check with the Council on Aging. Tuesday was not available. Wednesday was not available. So it was either Monday, the 5th or the 8th. And I thought that, Connor, you had mentioned you would like to get them a week before the town council's meeting on the week of the 12th. So what does the Monday, the 5th sound like to people for our kind of final wrap up to provide the recommendations to the town council?
I'm good with
Does that
it.
sound okay?
Thank you.
So we'll do that and I'll confirm that with the Council on Aging to,
start the same time. I might be 15 minutes late coming from work.
okay, all right, thanks for it.
Mile party.
Well, that's true.
Hey, this thing is mine.
So this is one of the two meeting dates that the Conservation Commission is also scheduled in this room at 6 PM. So my guess is we're probably going to have to wrap up by about 5:45. So we do have a hard date. Next week, we can like go on till who cares, midnight. But this time we.
Cheers. You see our faces, Jim.
Yeah.
So our first assignment was to kind of go through pages 13 through 17. So I would say let's try to get there. We'll be mindful of the time. Hopefully we get through that and come back to the other items on the agenda, depending on what kind of time we have. So we have, I would say, we'll see where we are to like 5:15. Because we do need to kind of think about next week, and if we have to, might defer some of this to next week as well. Let's start with that, unless anyone has anything else that they'd like to bring up first. Go ahead, Dawn. Sure.
As we review, we're going to go in order and check off, and if no one has any questions on anything, will we then come back to, and then like we used to at town meeting, someone has a question on whatever, and then we go back and we discuss, or are we taking it as we go along, just for expediency's sake?
Anybody have any druthers about that?
I like the recommendation.
The recommendation being
Kind of go through, see if we have any questions and then go back and do that.
saying we go through it all before we do that? Or as we go, we If we don't have,
Stop when there's a question or mark when there's a question and come back. Is that?
Mark, when there's a question, come back.
Yeah,
That
Oh, okay.
usually goes.
It's like town meeting question.
all right.
yeah, we'll town meeting, yeah.
So I will confess
Uh-huh.
that there's a number of them where I don't have a major issue with the budget, but I do have some questions that I just, wasn't quite sure about some of the items. Not a real problem with the overall budget of the department, but just was curious about some things. So I'm probably going to be a nap in some of that. Apologize.
We have plenty.
Just warning you.
Yes.
So I'm going to pull out the other part, the second part of this, because I was kind of using them in tandem. Found that kind of helpful. Although, let's say that, so the munis doesn't have the original budget. It can only use, I assume you can only use one current year budget. So you have to use the one that's approved with a,
Yeah, there's specific reports that can be run in Munis. If you want historicals, you're only going to see revised budget. If you don't want historicals,
Right.
it's original one.
although
The pros and
this, we're comparing it to the original budget. This, it's comparing it to the revised budget. So
the live budget.
right, so the percentages and things don't quite,
Yeah.
They're not perfect, right?
And a lot of the smaller departments, like the percentages, you have to look at dollar amounts
Yeah.
because one huge percentage could be 300.
oh yeah, I will. So we'll start with town council. Any questions? The only question I had is the town council, the travel, training and expense budget. Did that go to the town clerk's budget?
No, we just
Just-
opted to remove it from,
What's that?
we just opted to remove it.
Oh, okay, because it looked like they added travel and stuff to their budget.
They did.
And so I was wondering whether that's because it came from this budget.
No, it did not. I can answer that other question right now unless you want to wait.
Sure, no, go ahead.
Come up. We had two departments anyway
Yeah,
that were sharing hotel rooms on their trips, which I had to put a kibosh on. Maybe obvious reasons, but certainly legal reasons. So that's why those budgets ticked up. We bought another hotel room if two people were
Yeah.
on a trip.
Makes sense.
so no questions on town council? All right. Town manager, questions on town manager? Hearing none, we'll put an okay there for now. Reserve fund transfer. I just had a dumb question. I wasn't sure what classification study meant.
Sure. So we have an ongoing wage and classification study for our non-union personnel. And anticipating some fluctuation in salary, certainly for this budget. This is sort of a estimate of what that impact is going to be on all the other budgets, meaning that's across every single budget. And this budget, we can move the money into, but important to budget for it so that we're not adding it after we approve a budget and then next year having to fill that hole with a budget, right? So we're planning for increase in salary ahead of time so that it's in the budget.
So this isn't actually a study per se. This is the impact of the
Correct.
study.
The estimated, the expected impact of that study.
So it's a placeholder?
Correct. Rather than try to put that in all the budgets without really knowing what that impact is going to be. And this is another one of those funky ones that doesn't have a balance. So the percentage increase looks weird
Mhm.
because it's only at whatever the live munis number is at right now. But that 35,000 was an estimated impact for was there 40 of the employees? 40?
Close.
40 of the employees that could be impacted by the study.
So I
Yeah, go ahead.
guess,
No,
I'm
go-
sorry,
go- no,
Mr.
go ahead.
Chair,
Yeah,
I-
yep.
I think the way it's going, we're probably going to ask questions along. Seems to be flowing because as you ask questions, it triggers
Yeah.
more questions. So that's fine.
Go.
That-
So I apologize. We agreed on a methodology and I completely blew it out of the water. So
Simplify. It's good.
we could do it the other way. I'm happy to do it that
I'm
way.
fine with it because now it's triggering questions. The placeholder answered my question and the classification study encompassed, it is finished.
It's not, it's
It's not.
ongoing.
It's ongoing. We started this last year or it's been in talks for a while. Yes?
Yes,
Refresh my
we
memory.
had done one like
Years,
16, 17.
Yeah, which-
typically 7 to 8 to 10 years, you should.
right, too long ago.
And so we had some money set aside for this. And we used that money to pay for the study.
Okay,
So-
and you, sorry, I'm cutting out.
Nope.
Go. Do you know what towns, where?
So it'll be like,
Compared to?
yeah, it's a whole comprehensive process in that they're going to certainly look at similar positions in town, but it's also the whole job description. So if two positions in another town are doing what one person in our town is doing, it will be weighted differently, right?
Okay.
And so if you look around at job descriptions in other communities, there's like a grade and a scale. We don't have anything. We're sort of, we had this conversation last year. We're sort of subjectively kind of paying our people and advertising positions based on what we think the market's at. This will provide a grade and scale and step for everyone that's not in a union contract. So just providing a little more structure to what we're doing, because right now it's sort of subjective and there's not always logic in the decision making, which is not fun for anyone.
Chair,
Yes, go ahead.
Tom, does this affect all town employees?
No.
What offices are we talking?
Non-union personnel, which is our department heads, and then sort of what we would call like mid-managers is most of the positions that are outside of a union body.
Thank you.
So unless the discussion gets out of hand, and I'll rein it in if it does, go ahead and ask,
Okay,
you can ask a question. Compromise to our methodology. I do have ones that I don't have questions on, and I can tell you which ones those are. And then we can just go back to the ones that I have the questions on. How does that sound?
Or we can just go down. If you don't have a question, we move on.
Yeah, right.
All right, all right. Any other questions on the reserve fund transfer? None? Okay. Accounting.
did we lose positions in that department? It says reduced part-time salaries.
No, I have a part-time person, but they were just budgeted for like 30 hours a week, but they only work about 20. So I reduced the budget for them.
Okay, so they're still on board, but they're at a reduced rate.
Yes.
Okay.
Reduced hours.
Reduced hours.
Reduced salary.
So, but the combined combination of it, Kim, it still comes out to a 5% increase in staffing?
Yeah, so one of the employees, I'm currently down an employee. So when I hire for that employee, it'll most likely have to be at the rate that I was paying the person who was in that position. And then the person who replaced another employee that I had lost is getting paid more than that employee was getting paid. So it does go up a little bit more than what you'd expect, the 2.5% to 3%, just because of the people that are filling those positions now. They're at different steps.
So you're budgeting it with the anticipation that it's going to do that?
The person that I have currently is moving into the other position, so I know what she's going to get paid. And then I left the position that I need to fill at what it's currently being paid. Higher into that.
If you have to hire at a higher rate, will it go beyond 5%?
Well, that's with the anticipated new rate.
All right, well, okay, that's what I thought, but I didn't get that.
Yeah.
What Kim said there. Is that general theme, probably on a number of these, it looked like 5% was in the full-time staff increases. coming out at that level, and I was just curious what's driving that.
That's the contract, the step and the COLA.
That's because of because of the union contracts. Because not only do they get a COLA, there is a step increase in between everybody's position as they move up.
Okay. Well, that was my question. Assessors.
I have a question. The explanation that the revaluation contract was reduced by 25,000, is that because we're done with the reval, or
This is one of the off years, right?
so it's
It's considerably less.
Okay.
I think our new contract, the price is considerably less than we've been paying.
So this had one of my 5% questions, so I guess it's a moot point at this thing.
Yeah.
Is the GIS software represented in the IT budget? Because that 10,000
Diane's, the one that says that moved out of assessing?
yes,
It is now, yes.
in not the IT budget.
Right.
Thank you.
Yep. We were flummoxed how we missed that one last year, since we moved all the other software out and missed that one.
Well, some of them were being charged to other accounts, not particularly the one that we targeted last year. So,
Oh, right. It was a different line item.
Yeah.
So as you can tell, these object codes are all like the same description. And the software one was what, 5310?
yes, probably 5310.
And Diane's was in like a professional
5307.
others, 5307, my favorite one, the bucket, professional technical other. And so we missed it. So that's just a move from last year when we moved all the software into IT. We missed that one. Or one mistake.
Treasurer.
Thank you.
Treasurer collector. I had a different kind of question in this one because the salaries are down. And I was kind of curious, are the number of employees down or?
This one, most of it is going to have to do with people, not positions. And we had someone retire that had been here for a very long
Yeah.
time. And so when we filled their spot, naturally they were coming in at a much smaller
Just
step.
good
No,
news.
no.
Just want to make sure.
Yeah, the accounting one was sort of similar too. There was two units, the professional unit and the clerical unit. It was like a weird move that ended up being more than it normally would have. Sometimes it works out the other way.
Legal services, I had no questions. You don't see anything looming that you need to
No, we
reserve for?
no, I think we're good. We kind of chatted about that last night. I think we're in a good place in terms of staff knowledge where we're not needing as much legal, and there were a couple of crazy things that happened year one that kind of got us out of control. But I think we're back down to a level where we can sort of maintain this.
Human resources, questions? So I was just a little curious, again, don't want to look a gift horse in the mouth, but no change between the current budget and the new budget in full-time staff salaries.
They also had a similar situation where somebody had left who was making a considerable amount more than the person replacing them.
All right. Good. Other questions, anybody? I'm sorry to seem and to confess that I'm so out of touch, but the new department head is on board and great.
Outstanding. That was sort of my point to make last night about the legal budget, is having somebody in HR that knows what all the
Well,
rules and laws are has really helped that other budget, because I'm calling our lawyer because I didn't know, right?
Yeah.
And so now we have somebody there that has the knowledge to not have to call the lawyer all the time.
other questions? Information technology.
What do you mean by 13.4 thousand on telephones?
This was a function of a couple moves. There was, I think our existing phone system is out of date, and rather than update or upgrade all our phones, we went to Zoom phones, which was some of an increase, but in the long run would end up saving us money not buying new hardware like the phones. So everybody will have it almost worked like a cell phone kind of thing where everybody has their own phone number for their desk phone, and we can message without doing the extensions and this, that, and the other thing, and it winds up being cheaper.
Wow,
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
kind of neat.
I have to give Ryan credit. He seems to stay up on all this stuff.
Nobody better.
Can you,
And there's Zoom phone, what the heck is that?
Yeah.
can you elaborate on the increased salary to contract, 5,259?
Mhm.
Sick, yeah.
Do you mean the repair contract, the repair it seems like?
No, it's under IT.
Yeah, IT increase
Salary to contract.
Mm-hmm.
in the green, right?
It's
Yeah.
just the contract. It's just the number, the amount that went up because of the contract for salaries.
So it's a
Gotcha.
contractual obligation.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just the wording. It was a little bit different than it was on the.
Kim in her notes, shorthand,
Sorry.
you know?
So I did have a question. I mean, it looked like Brian's never used part-timers, at least in the recent past. And this is the first year he's begun. Is that something new for him?
We always had a seasonal employee, and I don't know if he had that in a different line item. Is that?
Might have had it in a temporary classification, but he still has a temporary employee.
So he has two temporaries and then one part-time.
Which is a new category for him, right?
Oh, so he didn't have it in there before, right?
Right.
Is there a historical for that?
I know the summer ones were dedicated to overhauling, all the machines come back in,
Yeah.
they do all of their preventative maintenance.
Yep,
And they were for maybe 6 weeks interns.
correct. So the part-time employee,
Yeah, he did not have that part-time employee last year.
right. But there's a part-time, so it's a full-time employee. He works part-time for rec and part-time for IT doc. So my guess is he put it on that line. Right.
Oh, and then we moved it into the full-time.
He does show his organizational chart, a summer technician too.
Yeah, I think that's the seasonal one.
Right, exactly.
Typically, he hires someone to, like Kathy was saying, there's an unbelievable amount of work in the July, August months to get ready for the school year.
Yeah.
And so he usually gets somebody in there.
I don't know, I feel like
Other questions for information technology?
I hired last year, halfway through the year. That's why it didn't show up in the beginning. Then it carried on to this year.
All right. Then we're gonna make a note, and I'm just
Make
gonna
a note
double
of
check and make sure that that's what happened, okay? So we're all clear.
You'll get back to us at the next meeting?
Yep. That's the part-time salary line item for IT.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. Let's just as well double check, right?
Next is, town council clerk. Other than my 5% question, and the hotels, that was it for me.
Yeah, they had a hotel one.
I did have the professional other, which was, pretty much nothing. And last year, it was $800 in the budget.
Yep.
It's now budgeted at 6,000.
Yep. That's the, what's that, our King contract or whatever? So there's a couple of things that move the vault maintenance. 1 year, treasurer collector pays for it and 1 year clerk pays for it. So that flops around.
That's a crappy budgeting.
And why aren't they each paying 500? But
Why
okay.
don't you just,
Yeah.
All
why
right.
don't you just split it 50/50 and have it
Every
every
year.
I
year?
think we should.
Yeah, maybe we should do that.
As I'm saying it out loud, it sounds silly.
Yeah.
No, it's not.
So the King was 1,000 of it. And then the GC earlier, when I told you I didn't know what it stood for, it's general code. So for the bylaw changes, there's another $5,000 in there for any of those bylaw changes.
Yeah, I had no idea what King was.
What is King, a vendor?
The ball.
The vault.
I'm pretty sure, yeah.
Yeah.
King is the records management,
Oh, right.
which CPA had paid some of it and to restore all the records. King Associates or something like that.
I think it was getting information.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh, yeah.
Quick question from the note taker who's getting hand cramps. I can't read my writing, so who knows what the,
I just say general discussion ensued, you know?
That's the best one.
Changed format multiple times.
Okay, you were talking about splitting the budget rather than going 1 year. Who was the other, what was the other?
Treasurer, collector,
Okay.
and clerk, because they share that vault.
Yep, that makes sense now. Yep.
Okay.
Thank
Another
you.
one. So what are we up to? 1.5 mistakes? Do we get a full mistake for that? I think we should probably change
I mean,
that.
I think that's just, it's not really a mistake. It's just, you know.
It's the way we've always done it.
As a budgeter, I would hate to have to explain that every other
Yeah,
year.
right. We probably, yeah.
1 year I'm a superstar and then next year.
Needed hitter.
Elections. So I didn't, anybody have any questions on elections?
The major election thing was we've been budgeting for a primary election since the charter and we've never had one. So instead of budgeting for it every year, we're not going to budget for it every year. That's why that's down 58% or whatever it is.
How much would it cost you if you had a primary?
An election,
Like 15.
15,000.
Yeah,
Like
basic,
15K?
yeah. I think there were 15, something like that, 15 in election.
Yeah, it's about 15,000.
Find out when we have a primary someday.
Someday.
That's if we have too many counselors
Yeah.
seeking counselor spots or school committee spots.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep. What is it? 3 times as many as seats?
Mhm.
I'd have to, I should
Double.
more than double.
More than double, yeah.
Which we haven't had. So.
So
Any,
I understand what you're saying, that you're not going to budget for it, but were it to happen, you'll just do a
So,
free cash transfer.
so some sort of either the reserve or a transfer. And I think this is sort of we were talking about this with Diane's budget, the valuation, since we brought it up. These spikes in the budgets,
Yeah.
we don't have to budget for and then bring it back down. We should pay for a one-time expense and then keep budgeting, right? It throws everything out of whack. So that I would look at that the same way. If we got that, we're going to pay for it anyway, but why budget for it? Because that's just cutting into everything else we need to do.
Right.
So this year, more than most years, we've been trying not to budget for these one-time blips that are coming back.
Makes sense.
so this said a current year actual of like 28,000. So there was, we just haven't had primaries in a
Yeah.
long time.
This year was light. Last year was enormous.
Yeah.
And so we've never had a local primary. Excuse me, let me make sure that that's clear.
Never had a local primary. Oh,
Not that Jeannie could remember, but maybe there was one at some point.
Tell you that, not,
First
time ago.
town council,
The very first one.
Yeah.
first one we had.
that's it. Huh?
32.
Oh, yeah, right.
So yes, there was definitely a primary.
That's a more than double, right?
All right. Okay. Well, if that's the case, then I guess I don't have any objection to that. Okay. Planning, zoning, conservation.
So this is, I'll just jump the question. If you look at the revised budget, this is actually, the proposed budget is actually less than the revised budget this year. And we had moved half of their 40% of the building clerk into planning. So that's the difference in adding the 40% of an employee. And that person is now being paid by, we had done that transfer already. So this year, the FY 26 budget will have this in there now. But it looks like when you compare it to the budget, it's a 10% increase, so it's actually not.
All right, not sure I completely follow that.
Oh.
I guess.
So when we started the budget process last year, building had a building clerk and an admin. The building clerk, because of the workload in planning, we decided that building clerk could also work for planning.
Yeah,
Share an office space.
That,
Yes. So that 40% of a person wasn't budgeted last year and now is budgeted in planning. But if you look at the revised budget, since we already changed the money, it's already factored in, right? So if you look at the 2026 projection compared to the revised budget, it's actually less.
that's why it's high versus the original.
Correct.
Not versus the
Correct.
revised. Okay.
Yeah. So
Because the
that's
money-
already how we exist.
Right, the money got transferred in there halfway through the year. It just went from planning's budget to, no,
From
transfer
building.
from building to planning.
Yeah.
Questions? Police department. What retirement bonus reduced 10K?
So they have a contractual stipulation that if they retire more than or if they give notice more than a year in advance, they get a payment, which we're calling a compensated absence thing. Like when we pay out when someone leaves, that got moved out of the budget and we'll get paid out of that.
And that
Compensated
makes sense
absence.
for us because that allows us to send somebody to police training and all that kind of stuff.
And these things, the timing of which are really difficult. And even when we have good planning, typically don't get somebody in like within a week, right? It's always 3 months later. So that's why that incentive is in the contract. Yeah.
Tom, can you clarify for me, the Quinn bill still exists? I thought that was out of,
The Quinn bill exists, but is not being paid for by the Commonwealth anymore.
Yeah.
Oh,
So it's-
there's a surprise.
Yeah,
no, that 278 is
Which-
yes.
correct.
Wow.
Amazing.
Has been for quite a while.
Yeah.
Quite a while.
Quite a while.
Yeah.
So the 10.9% increase in the Quinn bill expense, is that just the expenses going up or the number of people taking advantage of it is going up?
So, and the new contract negotiation. So if you were hired before a certain date, the town was paying your full Quinn bill, and after that, you got the half. And so the last contract, because more than half of our police department wasn't happy with their Quinn bill, they negotiated a percentage increase for the people hired after that date, which wasn't all the way to the 25. And they did it over 2 years so that we wouldn't feel the impact of it all at once. So half of it got increased last year and then half this year, and then everyone's up to speed.
So after next year, it'll just be smooth.
It'll just be whatever their COLA increases.
Okay.
Yep.
And is that something also going on with the longevity as well, or?
Same idea. The contract terms were changed. And everyone's been in the police department longer. So that line item, as we get people to stay, which is good, will all continue to get paid out more.
And we settled the contract last year, right?
Yes, after the fiscal.
After the
So, yeah.
budget was approved.
Correct.
That's why a revised budget
Correct.
included that. Questions about the police department budget? Fire department?
The 18,000 reduction in general expenses, maintenance and supplies, that's just seems like a lot, or would make the assumption that that was maybe over budgeted?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And again, most of the expense budgets we'll spend a lot of time with because the salaries are sort of contract, especially
Can't move.
fire, like it.
Yeah.
But if we're looking at historical data, and they're not spending up to that budgeted amount in 3 years, then it's time to bring that down. And that was Paul's submittal, I believe, with taking those expenses out. We didn't even do that, right?
Yeah.
So Paul did his homework. He got the message on his way out the door.
Tom, Paul moving on, Chris Beach moved up.
Yep.
If we hired a position, have we filled Chris Beach's price?
We do not have a deputy as of right
We
now.
gain in salaries with both those positions being given to younger staff members.
We budget less. Yes.
Okay, that's all I got.
So is that why, I mean, again, the full-time salaries are, again, this one is against the current revised budget, but I think it is the same, isn't it? It's not the same. Yeah, it is the same. It's down 1.6%, for FY 26. So the full-time salaries is a decrease.
Well, it would be a couple things, right?
Yeah.
Like Rich was just saying, but we also have new firefighters on, right? So if somebody moved on, similar to the other spots, we have somebody start in.
Is that what you're?
Yeah.
All right.
I think there was also, didn't we move some of the salary money into the stipend account? I think that might account for a little bit of it.
The contractual.
Yeah, so there are stipends that get paid out, and I believe, trying to look for it, I think we moved those stipends into the stipend line item as opposed to being in the salary line item, so that it was more in line with what was happening in the fire department as well. So I think if you look at the detail, I think the stipends go up. I'm not on your page, hold on.
Stipend is weird, Kim, in the Munis report, because there's nothing historically, and then it shows 62,716, so it's a 0% increase. But because there's nothing to base it against.
It's just moved from another line item into the actual line item. It should have always been in. Right. So we were paying those stipends out of the full-time salary last year. Then because that's not accurate, we moved it into the stipend line item. And that's the decrease in that, or part of the decrease in that line item is that 62, whatever.
Yeah. Because if you were to look in the police department, they have a stipend line item and they've always separated their stipends. For some reason, I don't know, but we've never done that in the fire department. So we did it this year to make it comparable. And so we could see the difference between what was being paid out in stipends and what was being paid out in salaries.
And stipend in the fire department equates to what? What is a stipend in a fire department?
I'd have to look through the contract.
Specifically, we'd have to look
but
through the
yeah.
contract, but it's,
right.
Those are written, the criteria would be in the contract.
Yeah.
That's okay.
We can clarify that next time too.
And education went up like 25%, $10,000. Have any idea what
People.
new
So
people need to be educated?
No. So they have similar to the Quinn bill, depending on their level of education, they also get.
This is the price of having newer people that are now needing to become more educated.
No. Depending on your education level as a firefighter EMT, you get a bump in pay. And so people are continually getting degrees and therefore we have to pay more for more educated staff. That's a contractual obligation as well.
Hey, Tom, Looking at the figures for overtime for both the police and fire, is that coming out of the town or is that being paid by the tree service that hires the detail for a police officer?
No, that's our overtime salary line item. So if they work for like a detail, that's all paid.
By the contractor?
We have the
Revolving. fund.
revolving fund for details.
So the 404,000 overtime for the police is paid by the town?
Yep.
Or
Coming in on overtime? And I'm sorry, I don't mean to be a wise guy.
somebody said.
No, yeah, right. If you're backfilling shifts or you have to come in or stay late or, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
And it's gotten a lot better. than-
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember way back when, yes.
So things overall are good.
Yep.
And just a kind of a broad-based question. I know that when we are advertising for new positions, especially at department head level, are you finding that our salaries are realistic? Again, we're going back to kind of salary study, or that we're putting it out there and then when we actually negotiate, it ends up being higher. So a retirement isn't quite the bonus that people may think it is, or is it departmentally depends on supply and demand?
I guess I would say truthfully that it's all over the place.
Okay. Yeah.
It depends on the situation. It depends on the department or field or timing for whatever reason. For the most part, we seem to nail it down, but then we have these outlier years or positions or whatever that it's hard to grasp. And that, again, the reasoning for having a system where we can tuck everybody in, then there's no question. You just print out the sheet and put out and this is what we pay. Right? Because we've looked around and these are their job. This is their job description. This is what they do. And this is what they should be paid. And you got to fit in this bucket. So it is all over the place. And that's sort of why we're looking for a little structure.
Other questions on the fire department? Building department. And you answered my question already because of the 5.5% munis. Questions on the building department? All right, we got one page down.
All right.
It is 443. Long Meadow Dispatch.
Oh, my God, you gotta be kidding me. I was shocked by this.
Bless you.
God bless you.
This is our first year in full payment.
So that was my question is, have we reached our,
This is it.
okay.
That's not to say we won't see increases in Westcom's
But
budget.
nothing like
This is,
size of
Right.
increase.
yep, this is our full impact at this point. So,
You have no choice.
yeah, it's our assessment.
Yep.
This is the letter we get based on the budget that, again, I'm on the board. So we vote on a budget and this is the budget. And then this is our assessment based on call volume and
Feel that it is operating. How satisfied are you with
we've been scuffling for a little bit here. We have a new interim director installed. The building's about to come online. I feel like we're about to punch through. It's a great organization. The partnerships are great. The people are great. That we're just right there. Regional dispatch works. And I think we're about to really see the impact of that decision. Obviously we've seen it in the budget already, but I think when other communities start coming on and this new building is set to be built out for multiple more communities. And at that point, we could see this assessment come down.
I was on, I don't know whether it was this committee or whatever, when the projections were made for our town, just doing it ourselves. And it was kind of staggering, the amount of work that would have been involved and.
Yeah.
So it's,
Yeah, we're right there. There's a couple more communities that need to get built out, and then I think it'll be clear sailing soon. The new building is very exciting, obviously, so.
any other questions on? Yeah, oh, sorry.
If you
Go
don't-
ahead, Connor. Yeah.
I mean, I know there's some question about like when the actual timeline will be when the new building is fully up.
Yes.
Occupied, but has there been any other communities that have actually expressed interest, or is it just a hope that once a new building is up and running, that someone will reach out?
Yeah, we've had, I guess I would say unofficially, we've had multiple conversations. I guess I don't have anything concrete to say, and so I won't. But like I said, once you see the impact to the community when water does find its level, I think we're going to start to get a lot of communities start to come on board, and the state is really, really, really supportive of
Yeah.
this regional dispatch, and to the point that most of the funding for this is coming from state 911. So, I guess that's all I'll say. But yeah,
So just a quick question. Back before we started the regionalization, our dispatch that was out of their police station, wasn't their budget just over 400,000?
Mhm.
So even with this being at 100%, it's still a
Less.
huge savings in comparison. And we had the grants for 5 years, I think it was. So if you add all of that up, we've saved.
Plus the headache of having to operate it. Yeah, staff it.
Thanks.
Highway. Questions?
I had one. Reduce 20 grand in vehicle repairs. Is that due to we have newer vehicles and no longer have to repair, or was it just, were we over budgeting for vehicle repairs?
I think a little bit of both. That was I'd have to look back at the historical stuff. It's also has to do with less new vehicles. Well, the preventative maintenance that goes on at DPW has helped the fleet insane in the last 5 years. So you don't have to do as much full repairs. We're just maintaining our fleet. That's for sure.
It shows,
Yeah, yeah.
definitely shows.
Comment about T-shirts.
Is that those bright neon yellow shirts or?
That,
Don't they get,
and on the highway, the very last statement
is that,
is T-shirts.
That was a departmental request increase, and I think that the new contract, the allotment of T-shirts for the guys that they all wear. We like that they all wear the same thing, and they're high-vis green, and so it's in the budget. Yeah, I think they were running out. Daryl keeps them in a big box in the back, and they were running out. You want one, Rich?
I might want it.
Who doesn't?
Any other questions on highway? Okay. Building facilities.
the contractual services or contracted services down by 29,000?
Yep. What was the exact reasoning for that?
I mean, I know a lot of these line items they were based on historicals, they were just over budgeted quite a bit, but let me see if there's something specific.
Yeah, and again, we had this issue last year, and unfortunately, we're probably going to level out here at some point when Bruce has a staff in this division, but we've been struggling to find and keep people in the building facilities division. I think we've advertised for a plumber for over a year now. And so we need to look into that. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it was just, if you look at all the line items, it was just 5,000 from here, 5,000 from there, because they just were over budgeted based on historicals.
And so that's in green. So that was our conversation with DPW saying, we're not hitting these numbers. And again, a lot of it has to do with there's nobody there to do the work. So we don't want to cut the whole thing if he does hire everybody next year and we got no money to buy things and build things, but we're trying to find a spot where it can level itself, I suppose. But again, this historical data, if we're not spending up to it, we're not budgeting it anymore. And if we need to buy something or do something,
Deal with it.
then we'll deal with it. But we can't over budget it. We're on the razor's edge and we can't keep over budgeting because, or just in case, or if this happens,
Got it.
got to start dialing back.
And we did look at by department who was turning back money every single year. And there was a good amount coming back from highway and I think from utilities. So we looked at that as well.
So,
Question?
the new building that we have, that doesn't go under building facilities at all because that's under, I'm going to call it its own enterprise, but I know it's not enterprise revolving fund.
It's in a building revolving.
That's all completely separate.
Correct.
Thank you.
I guess I would add the caveat that John is the building maintenance supervisor, so he's taking the calls.
Right.
But his salary is not in the 382 budget. It's only here.
Okay.
Right. So
Yeah. So there is, some cross.
there's some overlap. If Bruce has to, or
Yeah.
if I have to deal with something, I'm not putting a day's worth of my salary on the 382 books.
We buy more buildings, we'll have to keep a timesheet.
There is a 382 has its own budget and it's all in that account.
Any other questions on building facilities? Snow and ice? Talk about a contingency budget,
Hey, as you go.
leaving it where it is. Any issues with that? Okay. Town and school utilities. Questions?
It dropped.
No, how can you?
Yeah, I think there was a couple of lines that Bruce was able to take some money out, but this is so volatile. We're locked in on rates, but the usage is always all over the place depending on the weather. We're gonna take a full look at this next year. You can imagine what the electric bill at the high school is going to be next year. And so obviously the gas bill will come down in kind too, but this is we're looking at a deeper dive into our utilities at this point, and we are a municipal light plant now. So I think there's a few more opportunities open to us. So we're sort of checking all that stuff I had mentioned last night about aggregation, but that doesn't really have to do with this account necessarily. But we have those rates locked in for, I think one of the energy ones is through March and the electric one is through next November. So we don't have to worry about the fluctuation of rates that we had a few years ago or a couple of years ago. It's just the usage that we kind of throw our hands up at. But this number seems to be reasonable for this year. But I think Bruce had a couple that he pulled some just from a historical standpoint. But other than that.
Questions? Trash collection disposal. Like we're set through this fiscal year.
Contracts
Yeah.
expire in 27 and 30.
The hauling one, this is where this gets fun. We're trying to line these up. So the hauling contract is good through 27, but our the recycling is good through 30, but our disposal one, which is where our hauler brings the trash, is up June 30th, which we're about to sign.
30th of.
So Tammy just got those numbers yesterday. They're sort of in line with what we've budgeted. There's no real surprise there. So not a thing, but we're going to do a 2-year deal. So then we can line up
Them all up.
hauling and disposal. The recycling will be what it is, but we'll have the disposal and hauling contracts on the same year. That's it.
So is the note incorrect? That it's up on 6/30/27?
Half of it.
No, that,
Should
I'm
go
sorry,
6/30,
that should just say, that should say hauling.
Hauling.
Hauling is up 6/30/27.
Well, 27 would be another,
Yeah, just,
the end of.
Yeah.
Another, we're coming into fiscal 26, right?
Right.
Yep,
And this is at the end of fiscal 27.
right,
So that's 2 years.
right.
yeah,
Okay.
Yes.
Well, you said this year.
No.
Okay.
There's two parts of the hauling. You have to have a,
Understand.
okay. So,
I just, yeah.
sorry, I knew that was confusing. That contract is up this year. We're gonna do a 2-year to line up with this one that ends on the
Perfect.
6/30/27.
election is 6/30/26.
No.
No,
Oh,
Oh, 26.
25.
25.
the waste
The
collection.
2-year deal brings
Hauling,
together.
Hauling is, I thought,
hauling is through 27. Disposal is up this June.
right.
Okay, 25. Disposal.
When we say, disposal, well, it's waste collection, correct? That's what we mean by that. What is up this?
But there's two parts of picking up the trash.
Right.
That's what we got.
Got it.
You have somebody that picks it up from the curb and then we have to pay to dump it somewhere.
Right.
That's another contract.
You were good. No, it's clear. You were very clear.
Hauling 6/30.
Okay,
Sure. Yeah.
all right.
I can't wait to line them all up.
Regardless
Say
of
that.
the contract expiration dates,
You are the state's.
Very well chaired.
does anyone have an issue with the FY 26 budget of the trash collection disposal?
No.
If not, let's move on. And waste collection. And now we've got to on to waste collection and disposal.
This is the transfer station budget.
Okay.
Oh,
So
Oh, okay, that's
Oh.
different.
actuals through 3/27 of 124,740. And then the 26 projection. I mean, we're not even through the year and you're projecting 10,000 less. It sounds like. I mean, I'm assuming the rest of this year, we're still gonna have another 20,000 or whatever, so we'll be at 134 by the end of this year. How are we thinking next year is gonna be even cheaper?
Oh, no, look at that.
You mean, why did we reduce it or why didn't we
Yeah.
increase?
Reasonable question.
Yeah, it is a great question.
And I'm sure when we were,
That's in our actuals when we end this year are gonna be. Probably, if I look at it, 140 or more.
department is that? I wasn't. looking.
It's the one after DPW and after the trash collection, before health. Somebody messed that up. I asked to flop those.
page 40 in the munis.
We're gonna work on it.
Yeah.
All right. So. Current year actuals are 124. Prior to that, they were much, much lower. 89, 78, 89. And I'm not sure.
Unless there's maybe a one-time
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering.
issue that
Yeah,
occurred.
expense.
We'll check with,
Yeah, we're gonna have to look at
we'll
it.
check with Bruce on that.
So you'll get back to us next meeting, okay.
And I have a feeling that these current year actuals are possibly pulling in the encumbrance because it's exactly 110,000. So that
There it is.
may be the issue, but I'll look at it.
No,
That's definitely.
that's definitely what it would be, because it's always the same person, the same company, right?
Hmm.
So what,
So basically, Bruce would encumber the entire amount, which makes it look like we've spent the whole thing. So that in accounting, when a bill comes in, he just signs the invoice and we already have a PO and it just goes. And then we just roll the rest of it back that was encumbered and not spent.
you would encumber it this soon?
Yeah, like
the
the
beginning of the year, you
utility,
would.
yeah, the utility bills, he encumbers the entire amount July 2nd. Just so you can just keep paying bills. So operationally, it's easy, but Munis doesn't differentiate between how much we're going to spend. So that's why we came down, because of the actuals for the last 2 years, not what looks like the actual is in Munis.
Yes, that is consistent. I'm looking at town and school utilities and the actuals to 327 is 1,639,000. And your budget, and then the budget is 1,634,000. So
Yeah, the most of them just get encumbered right away. There's a lot of that. The school does a lot of encumbrances right up to the line. A lot of departments that are paying a consistent bill to the same
all right,
vendor.
we're not looking for another 3 months worth of expenses to
Correct.
add on top of
It's
the.
already been.
So the actuals aren't actual.
The actuals are not actual.
Yeah.
No, they're live.
So the 124 is most likely what we're gonna spend total, what it's not actually spent.
So that number was budgeted at whatever, 110 or 90, and we've only been spending 70 or 80. And so we took 20 out of it.
But I will
So
double check it.
We
to
can
make
double
sure.
check, but that's exactly why, is because we encumbered.
And I would assume this year would probably be less, considering we
Sounds like machination.
waste oil disposal, because they're still not accepting it.
Correct.
Okay,
That's a town council.
that was a good question, Ralph. Let's move on to, sorry, Connor. Yeah.
Was there a consideration, with the waste collection for the transfer station to increase any fees for that this upcoming?
We did look at that. I think we decided even if we doubled it, it wouldn't offset this budget. And I don't think anybody had any appetite to go past that conversation. So it's still kind of a goodwill gesture to the community to pay for it out of the general fund, and it only costs you $50 to go. So we did look at it. I think we can have the conversation. I think if we wanted to have a real impact, it was only like $31,000 for revenue for dump passes, which I thought it was more, but that's all it was. So if we doubled it, we would certainly eat up a little more of this budget. But I think to ask people to go from 50 to 200, say, in 1 year to have a real impact, that's sort of when I stopped having the conversation with myself. But again, we'll keep using our permutation word. There's plenty of ways to look at this. The most of the impact I get about the dump is that people are thankful that it only costs $50 and they go once and it basically pays for itself. But that's an operation that we've looked at to try to run like an actual transfer station and like make money. And that's something that we could look into further. But after looking at the revenue stream for the actual permits, that I didn't think raising it triple in 1 year was going to make even a little bit of an impact anyway. So we took 20,000 out of the budget. But that was as far as the conversation went. But we did look. I'm willing to have a further conversation for sure.
I think we should, but yeah.
Speak up.
I'm just be quiet.
Good today.
A side note is if you raise it too much, AC or dumping
Yeah, on the side.
about the community, and then our DPW is going to have to spend more time cleaning up what people would normally have brought to the transfer station. I remember this conversation with Springfield years ago. They claimed East Long Meadow was dumping in their town. So no, I think, I hear what you're saying. But if you make it too expensive, I think folks may not use it.
Yeah, certainly not want to go buy the
Right.
dump pass. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But I do think $50 for the entire year
It's a good.
is extremely reasonable,
Mhm.
Yeah.
considering I know what it cost me just to dump one load somewhere. So
Well, and now everybody knows how much it costs to run it.
Yeah.
So,
And the amount has been the same for ages.
and the amount has been the same. So that maybe Yeah, we had looked at some other revenue sources that had been stagnant for a while and sort of bumped them up a smaller amount, but that's certainly an option to look at that.
So it's 5:04 and, we're not far from getting to, I mean, I think all we have to do is get to where the schools start.
Yep.
And let's see what we can do. I don't propose that we rush and not discuss whatever we need to discuss on these. But as I say, we'll see where we are maybe at 5:20. And,
It'd be nice to get through the whole town departments.
the town part, yes, if possible, yeah. So we'll move on to the health department. And of course, I had my 5%.
I've been right at the top. I can see it.
Other than that. Questions on the health department? Any questions?
Mm-mm.
All right, no questions on the health department. Council on Aging. Questions on the Council on Aging?
There's the hotel, yeah.
So my only question again was, if I average the full-time and the part-time together, I come up with a 5.8% increase. So I wasn't quite sure how that was working.
Council on Aging.
Or if if I add them together.
Maybe I'm flipping Jim, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pull up their detail.
Their position. Nurse, for health and for library.
What did you tick the full-time
I think it was, no,
and what?
Full-time and part-time.
had a shared nurse.
And the full-time it is decreased by 1.3%, correct?
Right, but the part-time increased by 74.
Almost 75%.
The reason for that one, last year they had asked for a grant, a person who was funded by a grant to be included in their full-time salaries. When we reduced it because it wasn't granted, we took it out of the wrong line item. So I believe it came out of part-time when it should have came out of full-time. So we actually just did a transfer to correct that. So that's why they show up on here as like one being down so much and one being up so much.
See,
Well, and that's why I added them together, Kim,
Okay, and then you come up with
5.8.
5.8.
Question? There's
Yes,
a
Marilyn, yeah.
there's a shared position for a nurse between
She was here.
Council on Aging and, was it the Health Department?
Yeah.
Okay. Where is that?
Split.
Well, where is it in this budget? Is it under part-time?
Is that what we did?
Position,
It
right?
is,
But it's split.
Yeah, no, and we had this issue last year with our split position.
the
It
nurse
was-
is in the full-time, but it's
Because
half of it's in one budget, half of
in your notation, it says a 6% increase in salaries.
it does. And everyone in here is on a step. So I could go, I'm gonna have to go back, look at what their steps were last year, what their steps are this year, because I assume
So what you're thinking is it's all part of the step and
it's part of the contractual obligations of the contracts, but I'll double check it.
Now, is this the first year, Tom, that this has been in place? The shared position?
No,
No, it's a,
no, she's in this budget too.
all right, okay.
Yeah.
Wondering if if we had enough need in this community to, to support that position.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't, neither department head has said anything certainly bad or that they don't need it to me at this point.
Okay.
Um,
I know there was a lot of documenting as we were getting out of COVID and that kind of thing. I just didn't know where that stood.
Okay.
something to maybe consider, look into,
Okay.
thinking that might not be as busy as we thought it would be.
Hopefully, we're a lot healthier as a community.
That's right.
Any other questions on Council on Aging?
We'll check that, Jim.
All right, thanks. Veteran Services? I didn't have any questions on Veteran Services. Public Library? Just my 5% question. Other than that,
We have 6.2 this time, Jim.
what, 6.2? Oh, yeah.
8.3, yeah.
Put a bunch of them together. I did that.
Do they have a revolving account?
Library.
The library,
Friends
because don't they collect money for fines and
of the
such?
library, I
Huh?
believe.
They collect money, those go into the general fund.
Goes in the general fund?
The fines do, but they also have, are you talking about like Friends of
Friend.
Library?
Yeah.
They have their own
Yeah.
revolving.
Oh, they do?
as well.
Okay.
So.
Yeah, well, they're
Town.
separate.
And
They're a five
I
oh
vote.
Right.
one.
C3.
E3,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah. It's like a booster club, you mean, for the library.
Yeah.
You're right.
Basically.
Library does get a state grant.
Right.
They do have a grant fund that they can rely on for certain things. And then the Friends help them outside of it, but that's not in our books.
What is RT/LS equip?
What?
Oh, what, 5270?
Yes.
So that's the copier line item.
Yeah.
So rental,
It's so easy to
Rental
tell from
lease
that.
agreement.
Yeah.
it's our new
This lingo.
copier contract. So those numbers were sort of moved around
How did
on
that?
everybody's budget.
It's such an, it's not, it's not intuitive at all.
Questions on the public library? Recreation Department.
Had a question pop into my head. We were talking about copiers and I know it's a work in progress. I'm assuming, and I hate using that word, that in the past, we had talked about trying to create uniformity across town departments and having leases from one company and all across the spectrum. I'm seeing different leases. Are they same company across the spectrum? Or are we working towards that? Or have we decided that wouldn't work?
Everybody is under this current contract.
Okay.
And the pricing is based on whatever machine you have and actually what your estimated usage of that machine is. So pages get counted. Whoever's using the most, we publicly shame them. No, I'm just kidding. Again, there's a counter on who's using what. And if you're sharing equipment with another department, whoever's usage is, wherever it is paying more or less of the bill. So these numbers are all estimated based on the usage of the machine. I mean, based on data, obviously, but
Which is great.
yeah, so this was quite the undertaking by Mr. Quimby. Everybody is now on this copier contract and there's no, I don't have my own laser printer in my office or anything like that, right? Everybody's on the contract.
Yeah.
Recreation Department. So the only other thing, again, the note in here says 6% increase in salaries. I guess my question is, and I think last year we kind of talked about it a little bit, and I thought it was some of a catch-up adjustment kind of year. But is this something where you're going to be looking at this? I mean, is this what's structurally built in to your contracts, a 5 to 6% increase
So
in full-time
that's-
salaries?
That 6% that was requested was actually one person and there was 2.5% higher than they should have been. So that was something that we caught in that process and reduced it. So I don't think they shouldn't be at 6% at this point.
5.2,
5.2. So 5% is,
what you're
it's
going to live with?
union until the union contract
Yeah,
is up.
so they're all, the union, most of the unions, the clerical and professional union, which everybody in rec is scheduled on steps, and they're 2.5. And so whatever they negotiate for a cost of living adjustment is added to that.
Yeah, because you've got to be at least 1.5%, 2% higher than the norm in the private sector, I would think.
For what? Per year?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and then obviously way lower from a private to public.
Not as much anymore.
Yeah, well, and again, I think that's something that's got to come out in negotiations now. Obviously, we can't
I don't
afford.
think you're giving up as much as you used to, and your
Yeah.
benefits are.
Yeah, way better, of course. No, and I think these are all things that come out in the negotiation. I don't think.
Because I mean, if you've got that engine, you're just, you got an engine that's,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, it's unsustainable, and these are the contracts unsustainable, and they're gonna have to start getting changed. And so, if you're on this step scale,
I mean, particularly when we get to that end of this page where you talk about the insurance benefits and what.
Yep. Yeah, no, you're exactly right. And this is, we're gonna have to start coming back down to the 2% cost of living adjustment for everyone. It's just, it's not sustainable. Whatever the numbers are out in the universe, we can't pay them. So, this is where we're headed.
So, any other questions on recreation? Celebrations and cultural, historical? Okay. PVPC assessment, questions? Okay. Retirement of debt? Yes.
One general question. Yes, Tom and Ms. Collins. As a citizen now, we've gone through the whole town department budgets. Am I going to feel any impact of these cuts if I want to go to the accounting office for the question or assessors, the town manager's office, the town clerks? Am I going to feel some pain if I need something done, some service done? Or do you see that there's no change in service even with all these cuts?
No, and I guess I'd say we didn't really make any cuts. We're still at a level service. Any adjustments to the number were based on historical data and just not budgeting up to that line item anymore. I don't anticipate any blip in service at all.
Thank you.
Yep.
So we are through the town departments. We haven't gone through the debt. We haven't gone through the insurance and pensions, but did you want to take any action on these accounts? What's the appetite of the group?
Well, I think part of the question is, do we want illuminate? And then
Let's put it on the agenda for next meeting.
And then I'll throw it out that we go through quickly with no questions and we go.
I think it would be better to do it next week.
Right.
Yeah, oh, yeah, absolutely.
We have some things that will clarify.
Yeah, right,
We got
exactly.
action items as
Yeah,
well.
I've got it down, but I think we'll be able to move quickly next week.
Questions on the retirement and on debt?
Yeah, I'm confused. But when I look at this,
See,
different, the figures are different.
I was so proud of myself that I was,
You looked at I did a reconciliation.
yeah, but you have to like put the numbers together.
It's terribly confusing for me. I'm trying to go through and figure out where
Match up at all.
so
It wasn't me then.
part of the reason for this is that the school has their portion of debt, the town has their portion of debt, and then all of the enterprise funds have their portion. Everybody pays a different portion of debt. I tried to break out on that long sheet that you're looking at.
Yeah.
I tried to pull the debt out of the departments to give you different percentages of increase that you're not going to see on those munis reports. Because when you look at the debt included with everything else, it looks like everything's going up by an exorbitant amount because your excluded debt is also in here. So you're not going to be able to look at that munis report and say, this is exactly where it is in these other reports. But there is a little reconciliation page in there that shows you all the debt. It looks like,
What page, Jim, what page is that?
It was actually
Right after the,
right after all these.
49,
Oh, okay. It has its highlights in yellow. Oh, I see.
Yep.
Yeah.
47.
so that kind of shows you all the different buckets of debt and where they are in those munis reports.
Thank you. I thought it was me. I couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, no, I would like to get,
just municipal finance.
I would love to get munis to be a little bit more clear. So that's something we'll be working on this year to
Kim.
see it better.
So it's 5:20. Any other questions on the debt? With the workers' comp, the insurance, I mean, this is really where your crunch is.
Yep.
It's really awesome. Uh, anyway,
Still at an estimate for, I think the note for the explanation here, should say an 8% increase. That was the number we held. We don't have actuals yet. I met with our insurance provider last week. I expect to have them shortly, but we seem to think that probably going to be right around 5 to 6 to 8, something somewhere in there. So that's our 8% conservative estimate. And again, this will be one that we will talk about a lot with a huge increase next year when we bring a $200 million facility online. So we just have to sort of keep that in our,
with workers' comp,
no, the property liability insurance when we bring the high school on.
this is liability and property.
Yes, sorry.
The other one,
Yep.
Both up on top.
I'm sorry. Yeah, so that should say property and liability, right?
and it just says liability.
Yeah.
We
Well, we
can make it say
We
that
can make it say
in
that.
munis.
Sure. That would be more descriptive.
It would be.
And that would, the liability would go out for a while because we also have to cover, obviously, not only putting up the building, but taking.
Correct.
So these increases are speculation.
Nope. Excuse me, just for workers' comp and liability. Yes, I'm sorry.
Okay.
The rest of the insurance and benefits, we have actuals now.
Employee health. Okay.
Yep, those are all actuals.
Thank you.
So the health insurance is a good estimate at 9.65.
Yep, that is more than an estimate. That's the number plus what we've decided to budget based on Scannick Valley has been softening the blow on these increases by using their retained earnings, which, as we're having this conversation about using free cash for your operating budget, is not sustainable. And at some point, we're going to have to pay this enormity of an increase. And so even though they've said 4%, we're just like we did last year when it was 0% and we budgeted at 4.5%. This year it's at 4% and we're budgeting at 9.5% or whatever it is.
What does 30 add-ons mean, Tom?
Assuming 30 people coming on.
Oh, add-on meaning a person adds on to the group.
And again, all we can do is look at historical data and figure out what we think. That's just an estimate of what we think we're going to gain.
And is that health insurance for current employees or do we pay still insurance for retirees?
We do.
And in retirement contributions, do you only pay that for current employees, correct?
That's correct.
I mean, it is actually kind of staggering. I don't think I've ever looked at it like that before, or maybe it was never like put kind of format.
Yeah.
Because when you look at it and you exclude the schools for the moment, I mean, the total town excluding schools is like 36.6. 4% of that is this stuff.
Yeah, right.
And when you think about that, it's and we're 56%. Well, 86% of the increase is this stuff.
Yep.
It's unbelievable. So 1.4 million is coming from this, 16 million, and our 20 million is, you've budgeted basically a net $216,000 increase.
Yeah.
Like, wow.
Yeah.
And if this continues, like next year, are we gonna do 6, 7, 8, 9% again and again and again? I mean, we're gonna get squeezed out of.
Again, if we're lucky, that's why we're budgeting more than we necessarily need to this year, because we are going to have to make up that difference.
Squeeze is gonna get.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I don't know what kind of consultants are available or whatever, but I mean, the size of that number and the extent of the increase and the impact that it has on us and will have on us. I don't know whether there's people out there that can work with us to.
There is, and we kind of went through this exercise a little bit last year. We had a smaller increase than like the GIC is at 14 and change. A couple other places were at 15, 16. So it doesn't matter who you go to.
Yeah.
This is what everybody's seeing. And sorry, go ahead.
Just a couple things. Consultant. I look back in 2023, when Mary McNally was town manager, we did ask her to investigate a consultant. And that was going to run back then about 25, 30 grand. Also, historically, Scannick Valley has subsidized, I believe, I'm sketchy, and I'm going in the way back machine here, but I think we hit that cliff at one point and we had to jump it. And again, I'll throw it out because I throw it out every time. Maybe we change the metrics of, I realize in contract negotiations, that's going to be a huge one. I know health insurance hits you where it hurts and you must have it by law and just as a human, I won't say right, but it's compassionate. So my thought would be, could we protect and grandfather those who are in and new hires? Maybe we don't pay at X percent, but they take another percent. This is happening in private industry. And I think as private goes, public eventually is going to have to, because we know that was always the thing. If you had a public job, you had fantastic benefits. Your salary was usually considerably lower, and you had some job security due to the union contracts. But again, I keep hearing the word unsustainable, and I know we're all facing it. So I guess maybe it's time to think outside of the box a little bit.
Yeah, no, and I think the other one on there is the retirement contribution, and it used to be 9%. We're at 11%. I think we're going to see at some point that's unsustainable, and people are going to go to the 13% of their check is now going to go to retirement, because we're not going to have enough money to pay.
Question about the health insurance. For retirees, the premium is 50-50, correct? 50 split. And for current employees, it is 30 and 70. So that somewhat of what you're alluding to, Don, that in future negotiations, maybe that 30-70's got to shift a little more. I mean, nobody wants to hear that, or even, I mean, I'm biting my nose to spite my face here, but the 50-50, I mean, maybe that, I mean, somewhere those ratios have to be looked at, because if you could shift them a little bit, then all employees have a stake in it. And so you're not just targeting a certain group and saying, oh, well, you get to be at 30-70, but the rest of us are going to be at. So versus new hires coming on, because you won't get enough new hires in relationship to the full payroll to make us
It would take a long time.
a big enough bite in that number.
Years for that.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
For the new folk to make an impact.
So it's 5:30. I figure we're gonna wind up probably have people coming in on us
A few minutes.
shortly. So I figure probably 5:45
Yep.
is probably the end of our effective meeting time, but schools, there was the munis and there was the school budget. Did notice a lot of increase in tuition expense, at least it seemed to me, like 600, $700,000.
Must be special education.
I said, wow.
Yeah.
Like a lot to me, but in terms of how one reviews that, any thoughts on how you might want to approach that? I mean, I know in the past we've asked for detail and then we've looked at it, we've had the schools come in. How would you like to do that this year?
Tom alluded to the fact that that would be helpful if we had the superintendent come in. He could pretty much perform the same role that Mr. Christensen performed as town manager.
And Pam Blair, the assistant, because
Yeah, exactly.
she's a wealth of knowledge.
Can you do that without inviting the?
Committee.
Yeah, I'm not sure. Is that politically correct or?
The chair could attend as
Yeah.
unofficial, as strong as unofficial.
We had a list of questions last year and we got a lot of information up front, which truncated the conversation.
All right. So
No.
why don't we do this? You want to maybe see if they might be available, meeting of 4/23?
When is that school vacation?
Yes.
It is.
I think, did we do it? School vacation last year? I mean, Gordon would be, Pam would be working. No,
Unless they took a vacation, unless they took that week.
yeah, they'd be working.
Yeah.
Well, I could check. If they might be.
Sound,
If we do it, so today's the what, the 9th? So the 16th, we could take some time to prepare for some questions and have them come on the 23rd.
That's what I was thinking, yeah. That way there, we could kind of prepare some questions, talk about them on the 16th. And then, provide them for the 23rd. So part of our homework for this week would be to
On the
we
agenda.
have questions for the schools to bring them with us on the 16th. Does that sound? Okay.
Through the chair, we're coming close to 4:06, should we make our agenda for the next meeting?
Well, that's what I'm just looking at with Don and I had kind of like put together. I think at this point, we do our follow-up on the budgets that we reviewed and vote. We get the follow-ups from Tom on a couple of questions that we're going to get clarified. We go through the capital projects plans. We do the reserve policy and the sources and uses. We may have a little bit more discussion on the insurance and retirement because it's a big deal, but I would say we spend some time getting our questions ready for the schools. And I would say we do that before we deal with the insurance and whatnot, because that's not something that's going to be solved with this budget cycle. So and that would kind of be basically probably about as much as we're going to accomplish. The thoughts.
That sounds good.
Okay. Right. Anything else? And we know who's taking our minutes. So we're all set now.
maybe I'll try AI and see. You laugh.
I know.
Well, doesn't Zoom take minutes now? The AI function that takes minutes?
Validate everything. After we do it well.
Enterprise funds, do you have any timeframe?
No, I didn't. Actually, I don't even have it on my agenda, Ralph. It's one of those things that, where we are here. We have the schools. resolve other matters, budget items. Well, actually, if we get through town budgets, through the capital projects, all we've got left is meeting with the schools. We could probably do it there. So. All right, thanks for bringing it up. Yeah. Anything else? Oh, entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Oh, second, I got a
Yeah.
second.
Okay. Geez, did I forget to do that? I bet you I get it.
No, I seconded.
I thought so.
I did second.
Yeah.
it.
He beat you to the
Oh, is
punch.
that what it is?
Yeah, yeah.
It was
Any
quiet.
other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And then
And
Connor.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the council meeting.
So moved.
Second.
There you
Any
go.
other discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? You're adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you all.
Look at that.